Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into the world of product and project management frameworks and methodologies.
Yeah.
For anyone just starting out, this whole landscape can seem, well, pretty overwhelming. Lots of jargon.
Definitely.
So our mission today is really to cut through that noise, give you a clear, easy-to-understand guide.
Right.
We've looked at some articles explaining Scrum and related stuff, and we'll use those as a sort of roadmap to help you navigate this area.
Exactly. Think of this as your foundational knowledge. We want to explain not just what these things are, but, why they matter.
And how you can actually start using them.
Yeah, practically. Answering those key questions you probably have if you're new to this.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. We hear these words all the time.
Hmm.
Framework, methodology. When we're talking about managing products and projects, what's the actual difference? Is there one?
That's a good place to start. Think of a framework like. It gives you the essential structure, guiding principles, recommended practices.
Like a template.
Yeah, exactly, like a template you can adapt. A methodology, though, tends to be a bit more prescriptive. It gives you a defined system, specific methods, procedures.
Okay.
But honestly, in the Agile world, those lines can get pretty blurry. You'll hear frameworks like Scrum called methodologies all the time.
Right.
The important thing is really grasping the ideas behind them, how they bring order and efficiency to your work.
That makes sense. So, okay, let's talk about Scrum then. It comes up constantly, especially in tech. What makes it such a go-to approach?
Well, Scrum's hugely popular as an agile framework, mainly because it offers a pretty clear blueprint for teamwork and getting impactful results. Our sources point this out. It provides values, roles, guidelines. The focus is really on working in short cycles and constantly improving.
And the name Scrum. It sounds like rugby.
It is from rugby. Yeah, that actually came up in a Harvard Business Review article back in '86. It's a great analogy,
Great.
Well, like in rugby, the team works together, passing the ball, moving forward as a unit towards the goal. It captures that collaborative, self-organizing feel.
I like that. Teamwork, shared progress.
Yeah.
And Scrum wasn't always the standard way, was it? It sort of grew out of older methods.
Precisely. Scrum, which Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland really codified in the mid-90s, it was partly a reaction to the old waterfall model.
Right, the very linear approach.
Exactly. Waterfall was rigid. Phase 1 finishes, then Phase 2 starts. Schwaber and Sutherland saw, especially in software, you need something more adaptable, more responsive.
Because requirements change.
All the time. So Scrum lets teams handle those changes and deliver value quicker. The core idea is this iterative way of working, building step by step, learning, adjusting based on feedback.
Okay, iterative development. That sounds key for adapting. How does that actually happen in Scrum? I keep hearing about sprints.
The sprint is, it's basically the heartbeat of Scrum. It's a fixed time period, often 2 weeks, like you said.
Can it be longer or shorter?
Oh, yeah. It could be 1 week, could be 4. Depends on the team, the work's complexity. But it's time-boxed.
Okay.
During that sprint, the team just focuses on delivering a specific chunk of work they agreed on. And there are regular events within the sprint, like the daily stand-up for coordination.
Right.
And the retrospective at the end to reflect and improve. Think of it like a mini project. Clear goal, fixed duration.
Got it. A rhythm and focus. And to manage the work within these sprints, Scrum uses artifacts. What are those? Why do they matter?
Right, the artifacts. They're basically tangible things, information that make everything transparent, give everyone a shared understanding of the product and the work.
Okay.
There are 3 main ones: the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and the increment. Sometimes the sprint goal is tied closely to the increment, too. They're essential for inspecting and adapting as you go.
Okay, let's break those down. First up, product backlog.
What's his job?
The product backlog. Imagine it's the master to-do list for your product, but it's alive, always evolving.
So everything. Features, fixes, everything. Features, user stories, enhancements, bug fixes, anything that might be needed. The product owner keeps it prioritized, constantly revisiting it based on user needs, market changes, business strategy.
Okay, so it's a big list of possibilities.
Exactly. And just because something's on there doesn't mean it's guaranteed for the next sprint. It's options. The product owner manages this, often working with the product manager and others.
And they use things like user stories to make items clear.
Yeah, often. User stories with clear acceptance criteria help define what's needed and how you'll know it's done right.
Got it. Big list, constantly prioritized. Then, the sprint backlog. How's that different?
The sprint backlog is much more focused. It's the specific set of items pulled from the top of the product backlog that the development team commits to finishing during the current sprint.
Okay, chosen during planning.
Right, during the sprint planning meeting. It's a collaborative effort. And while there's some flexibility, the overall sprint goal, the main objective for that sprint, should stay stable.
So you try not to add things mid-sprint?
Generally, yeah. It disrupts focus. If it happens a lot, it might mean you need better planning up front.
Makes sense. Keep the focus.
Yeah.
And the last artifact. The increment or sprint goal. What's that?
The increment is the actual result of the sprint.
Yeah.
The working piece of product. It could be a new feature, an improvement, a fix, whatever the team got to done.
Done.
Yeah, that's tied to the definition of done. It's a shared agreement within the team about what it means for work to be truly complete. Maybe tested, integrated, documented.
Potentially shippable.
Potentially, yeah. It represents real usable progress, like ready for beta users or fully tested and merged. That could be your definition of done.
Okay. Master plan, current plan, tangible result. Makes sense. Now, who are the people involved? The key players. I hear product owner, scrum master, development team.
Those are the three core roles, yeah. The product owner, like we touched on, owns the product backlog. They understand the user, the business needs. They prioritize for maximum value.
And they decide what gets built and when.
Pretty much. They decide when to potentially release stuff, often favoring frequent releases to get feedback fast. But, they focus on the what and why. They aren't always the same person as the product manager, who might have a broader view.
Okay, voice of the product. What about the scrum master? What do they do?
The Scrum Master is the facilitator, the coach for the team. Their main job is helping everyone understand and use Scrum effectively.
So they remove problems.
Exactly. They remove impediments, things blocking the team from hitting the sprint goal. And they facilitate the Scrum events planning, stand-ups, reviews, retrospectives, making sure they're productive and stick to time.
So they're like the process guardian, focused on the how.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, ensuring a smooth, efficient workflow.
Okay. And the third role, the scrum team or development team. Who's on that team?
That's the group who actually builds the increment. They're self-organizing and cross-functional.
Cross-functional meaning?
Meaning they have all the skills needed within the team to get the job done. So you've got developers, testers, designers, UX folks, whoever's needed.
And self-organizing.
They decide how best to do the work. No one outside the team dictates the how. They have a real we attitude, sharing responsibility for success.
I've heard about the two-pizza rule.
Yeah. Bezos' rule. The idea is the team should be small enough to be fed by 2 pizzas, generally like 6 to 10 people. Keeps communication tight.
Practical.
Yeah.
Okay, so beyond roles and artifacts, Scrum rests on principles and values. What are those?
Absolutely. There are 6 core principles guiding how Scrum works. First, control over the empirical process. That means making decisions based on experience, observation, transparency, inspection, adaptation, learning by doing. Second, self-organization. Empowering the team to manage their own work. That fosters ownership, creativity. Then collaboration vital. Everyone working together built on respect. Fourth is value-based prioritization. Always focusing on delivering the highest business value first. Fifth is time boxing. Setting fixed time limits for everything. Sprints, meetings, keeps things focused.
Okay.
And finally, iterative development, building incrementally, allowing for feedback and change along the way.
Those principles really underline the flexibility and teamwork aspect.
Yeah.
And what about the core values? What guides behavior?
There are 5 core values. They really shape the team's culture. Commitment to the goals, to improving, building trust, courage to tackle tough problems, be honest about roadblocks, challenge things.
Important stuff.
Definitely. Then focus concentrating on the sprint work, the sprint goal. Openness, being open to new ideas, feedback, transparent about progress, which the daily stand-up really helps with.
Okay.
And finally, respect. Respecting each other's skills, opinions, the process itself. These aren't just buzzwords. They're crucial for Scrum to actually work well.
Commitment, courage, focus, openness, respect. Sounds like a recipe for a good team dynamic generally. Now, we've touched on Scrum events, the ceremonies. Can you walk us through each one's purpose?
Sure. These events give Scrum its rhythm. First, there's ongoing backlog refinement, or grooming. That's where the product owner keeps the product backlog tidy, prioritized, and clear, ready for future sprints.
So it's not just a one-off task.
No, it's continuous. Then, each sprint starts with sprint planning. The whole team gets together, they figure out the sprint goal, what they want to achieve, and why it's valuable. They select the items from the product backlog for the sprint backlog.
And how they'll do the work.
Exactly. Clarity on the what and the how. Then you have the daily scrum. Quick, 15-minute meeting every day. The dev team syncs up. What did I do yesterday? What will I do today? Any blockers? All focused on the sprint goal.
Not just reading out calendars.
Definitely not. It's about coordination. Then, at the sprint's end, you have the sprint review. The team shows the done increment to stakeholders, gets feedback, makes sure it meets needs. The PO might adjust the backlog based on this.
Okay, show and tell, basically.
Kinda, yeah. And finally, the sprint retrospective. This is crucial. The team reflects on the sprint itself. What went well, what didn't? What can we improve next time? It drives that continuous improvement cycle.
Right. Plan, do, check, adjust, essentially. These events give a clear structure. But is Scrum really rigid, or can teams tweak it?
Oh, it's definitely meant to be adaptable. While the framework gives you the core, teams absolutely should tailor it.
How so? Like sprint length?
Yeah, sprint lengths is a common one. 1 week, 4 weeks, somewhere in between. Depends on complexity, uncertainty. Some experts even say shorter sprints are better for more complex work because you get feedback faster.
Interesting. What about the ceremonies or artifacts?
Even those can be adapted. The key is sticking to the underlying principles. Transparency, inspection, adaptation. You figure out what works for your team.
So how would a new team know what to change?
Good question. Probably best to start by doing all the standard Scrum stuff for a couple of sprints, get the feel for it. Then use your retrospectives to talk about what's working, what's not, and make adjustments from there. Communication and continuous improvement are central.
Okay, so it's a guide, not a straitjacket. Good to know. Stepping back a bit, what are the main goals Scrum is trying to achieve? What are the benefits you're supposed to get?
Well, the big one is continuous improvement, just constantly getting better at how you work and what you deliver. It's also designed for quick iteration and adapting to change. That's huge today.
Yeah, definitely.
It fosters collaboration and self-organization, empowering the team. A major goal is delivering value efficiently, often by tackling the highest priority stuff first.
Does it help with team morale?
It often does, yeah. It can improve team productivity and morale because teams feel more ownership and see progress regularly. It also helps maintain quality, even when things get tricky, through those feedback loops. And finally, it provides useful metrics for getting better at estimating work over time.
Those are pretty compelling benefits. Okay, so for someone listening and thinking, right, I want to try this, but they're completely new, what's the simplest way to start implementing Scrum at work?
Keep it simple to start. First, really understand the core bits. The 3 roles, 3 artifacts, 5 events. The official Scrum guide is your friend. There, it's short and clear.
Okay, read the guide. Then what?
Then, figure out who will be your product owner and Scrum Master. Find people for those roles. Put together a small cross-functional team for a specific project or product.
Right, the 2 pizza team.
Yeah. Then, build your first product backlog. Prioritize it. Start with short sprints, maybe 2 weeks is a good default, and just do the basic events: planning, daily scrums, review, retrospective.
And the definition of done.
Crucial. Agree as a team what done means. Be transparent. Communicate openly. Be willing to learn and adapt. Maybe use a simple Scrum board, physical or digital, to see the work move.
And stick with the basics for a bit before changing things.
Exactly. Run it by the book for a few sprints. See how it feels. Then use your retrospectives to decide on tweaks. Learn by doing.
Okay, that sounds manageable. Now, Scrum isn't the only game in town. We hear about Kanban too. How do they compare?
Right, Kanban's another popular agile approach, but it works differently. The biggest difference, no sprints. Scrum uses those fixed time boxes. Kanban is all about continuous flow.
Continuous flow. How does that work?
Kanban focuses on visualizing the workflow, often on a board, and limiting work in progress, or WIP.
WIP limits.
Yeah, you explicitly limit how many tasks can be in any one stage of your process at the same time. This helps prevent bottlenecks and smooths out the flow. Scrum doesn't typically have explicit WIP limits like that. The limit is sort of the sprint backlog itself.
Interesting. What about structure?
Scrum is more structured, defined roles, events, artifacts. Kanban is more flexible. You can often overlay it onto your existing process without huge changes initially.
And cycle length.
In Scrum, it's the sprint length. In Kanban, you track the time it takes for individual items to go from start to finish, the cycle time. The focus in Scrum is delivering that increment each sprint. In Kanban, it's more about optimizing the flow of value continuously.
Can you mix them? Scrumban.
Totally. Lots of teams do. They might use a Kanban board to manage their Scrum sprint backlog or blend other elements. Sometimes Kanban feels easier to adopt initially because it might seem less disruptive than jumping straight into all of Scrum's roles and ceremonies.
Okay, so Scrum is more time box structure, Kanban is more flow and WIP limits. How does a team actually decide which one is better for them?
It really depends. First, look at the nature of your work. Is it project-based? Can you break it down into chunks for sprints? Scrum might fit well. Is it more of a continuous stream of tasks like support tickets or ongoing maintenance? Kanban might be better suited. Think about your team. Are they ready for the specific roles and meetings of Scrum? Kanban can sometimes be introduced more gradually. Do you need that predictable delivery cadence every couple of weeks that sprints provide?
Right.
Or is visualizing the workflow and actively managing WIP the most important thing for you right now? Kanban really excels there. But remember, it's not always an either-or.
You can evolve or combine them.
Exactly. Start somewhere, see how it goes, and adapt. Find what works for your team's unique context.
That's really useful context for making that choice. Okay, to wrap up our deep dive, what are the absolute key takeaways for someone just getting into this?
I'd say, first, frameworks and methodologies like these are there to provide helpful structure. Don't be scared by the terms. Second, Scrum is a really popular agile framework. Know its basic roles, artifacts, events. It's all about iterating and improving.
And it's adaptable.
Crucially, yes, adaptability is key. And know that Kanban offers a different, more flow-based approach, focusing on visualizing work and limiting WIP.
Great summary, and hopefully for you listening, this has cleared up some of the fog around these concepts and giving you a solid starting point for figuring out how to apply them.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe the thing to mull over is this. As you start exploring, really think about which principles and values resonate most with your team. How can you experiment? Because finding the best fit for your team in your situation, well, that's the real journey of continuous improvement. There's no magic formula.